Nairobi was alive as always, restless, glittering, and full of people chasing their dreams. In the heart of the city stood St. Luke's Hospital, a place of spotless white walls and whispered prayers. Here, medicine met miracles. Among its finest doctors was Dr. Kelvin Barasa, a name spoken with respect in every ward. He was young, handsome, brilliant, and confident, the kind of man who made patients believe they would recover the moment he smiled. He came from humble beginnings, raised by a widowed mother in Bungoma. His journey had been one of determination, top of his class, scholarship to the University of Nairobi, residency abroad, then back home to serve. He often said, "I owe this country my life. I will heal it, one patient at a time." But as his fame grew, so did his pride. He began to crave recognition more than service. He loved the praise, the interviews, the handshakes from politicians. The man who once healed with humility began to see himself as untouchable. His colleagues noticed the change, how he snapped at nurses, ignored protocols, and chased high-paying private clients. But no one dared challenge him. He was too respected, too valuable. And then, fate sent him a test he would fail. One afternoon, Layla Mwangi, the daughter of Governor Richard Mwangi, came to St. Luke's. She was young, bright, and full of hope, with dreams of studying abroad. Her father adored her. Her presence at the hospital was supposed to be routine, nothing serious. But over time, the powerful doctor and the governor's daughter grew close. Too close. When the scandal broke, it was like fire sweeping through dry grass. Headlines screamed his name. Governor's daughter in hospital scandal, doctor at center of investigation. The nation was furious. The governor, known for his integrity, felt publicly humiliated. He vowed to take action, not only for his family, but for the dignity of the country's healthcare system. For the first time, Dr. Kelvin Barasa realized that even power has limits. The fall. The following weeks were a storm. Media vans surrounded the hospital gates. Protesters carried placards demanding accountability. The once proud halls of St. Luke's became silent. Nurses avoided his eyes. Administrators whispered behind closed doors. A special committee from the Ministry of Health arrived. They combed through records, questioned staff, and reviewed his conduct. Kelvin sat through long interrogations, his confidence fading with each question. The governor appeared on national television, his voice calm but full of steel. "No one," he said, "no matter how educated or powerful, is above the law. We trusted this man with lives, and he betrayed that trust." The public cheered his words. But behind the applause, families mourned what had been lost: trust, respect, and faith in those meant to protect them. At home, Kelvin's wife, Miriam, packed her things and left. She couldn't bear the whispers, the pity, the judgment. His friends stopped answering calls. His accounts were frozen. In 1 week, he went from one of the country's most respected doctors to a man shunned by everyone. When the committee's report was finally released, the evidence was damning: unethical conduct, professional misconduct, and abuse of authority. The hospital suspended him indefinitely. The media called him the fallen angel of medicine. Soon after, the trial began. The courtroom was full every day: journalists, activists, angry citizens. Kelvin sat quietly through the sessions, avoiding the cameras. He no longer tried to defend himself. He simply listened as witnesses spoke: nurses, former patients, administrators. Each word cut deeper. After months of hearings, the judge gave the verdict. Dr. Kelvin Barasa was guilty of gross professional misconduct. His medical license was revoked. He would serve several years in prison. The hall was silent. Kelvin didn't cry. He only bowed his head. Outside, crowds cheered. To them, it was justice. The prison years. Prison stripped him of everything: his name, his title, his pride. He became prisoner 4821. The days were long and heavy. The air smelled of iron and sweat. He slept on a thin mattress and woke up to shouts of guards. For the first time in years, he had nothing: no white coat, no patience, no applause. But fate had one more lesson for him. One day, a guard named Odieno fell sick with malaria. The prison nurse was away. Desperate, the officers turned to Kelvin for help. He treated the guard with what little was available: warm water, rest, and kindness. Odieno recovered. Soon, other inmates came to him for help: headaches, fevers, wounds. He couldn't prescribe medicine, but he listened and advised. The prison chaplain, Father Michael, noticed. "You still have a healer's heart," the priest told him. "But now, you must heal yourself." Kelvin began to change. He taught other prisoners basic hygiene and first aid. He helped repair the broken clinic sink. Slowly, even the guards began to respect him. Years passed. When he was finally released, he stepped out of the gates into the open air. Older, quieter, but free. There was no one waiting. Miriam had remarried. His home was gone. His name, still a whisper of shame. He rented a small room in Eastlands and lived simply. Each morning, he walked past St. Luke's, now under new management and a new name. He never went in. Then one evening, outside the hospital gate, he saw Layla. She stood with a little boy holding his hand. They saw each other. The world went still. "Doctor," she said softly. He bowed his head. "Please don't call me that anymore." She smiled sadly. "I'm not here for revenge. I came to say thank you, not for what happened, but for what I learned. Pain teaches, too." He looked at the child. "He looks healthy." "He is," she said, "and he will grow knowing the truth, that mistakes destroy, but forgiveness rebuilds." Then she turned to go. "Take care of yourself, Kelvin. You still have something good inside you. Use it." Those words stayed with him. A week later, he joined a small community clinic in Mathar as a volunteer. He was not allowed to treat patients, but he cleaned, carried boxes, and helped where he could. No one there knew his past, and no one cared. The redemption. Years passed again. Kelvin grew older, gentler. People at the clinic called him Z Kelvin. He wore a plain white coat, no name tag, no title, just service. He taught young volunteers how to treat patients with compassion. He became known in the slums as the man who never turned anyone away. One afternoon, a group of medical students visited the clinic. Their professor, Dr. Wanjiku, recognized him. Later, under a mango tree, she said, "You've become a legend again, this time for the right reasons." Kelvin smiled faintly. "I'm no legend. I'm just making peace with my past." A few months later, she invited him to speak at a national medical ethics forum at the University of Nairobi. He hesitated, but agreed. When the day came, the hall was full. Doctors, students, journalists, all waiting. Kelvin stood before them, holding his old white coat in his hands. "I once wore this coat," he said. "I thought it made me powerful. But a white coat means nothing if the heart beneath it is not clean." The room was silent. "I failed," he continued. "I hurt people who trusted me. I was punished. But I learned something in prison. that healing is not just about medicine. It's about dignity, humility, and conscience. If we forget that, we stop being healers. He looked at the students. If you fall, don't stay down. Stand up. Tell the truth. Start again. When he finished, the audience stood and applauded. Some cried. His speech went viral, the redemption of the white coat. The Ministry of Health introduced a new ethics policy called the Barasa Code, based on his message of compassion and accountability. Kelvin went back to his small clinic in Mathar, Content. He worked quietly, smiling at patients, teaching volunteers, and watching life move on. One evening, Layla visited again, now a women's health advocate. Her son, Ryan, stood beside her, taller now, confident. He handed Kelvin a small box. Inside was a stethoscope. "Mom said you might need this," the boy said shyly. Kelvin smiled, his eyes wet. "Thank you." As they left, Layla turned and said, "You were right, doctor. Healing takes time for everyone." Kelvin sat outside the clinic as the sun set over Nairobi. The sky burned gold. He placed the stethoscope around his neck and listened, not to a heartbeat, but to the sound of life returning. He whispered softly, "The white coat has forgiven me." And as the evening lights flickered across the city, he smiled. A man once broken, now whole again.